That's where we talk all things Atlanta United and all things soccer. And as always, I'm joined by Dave and Carmen. How are y'all doing?
Great.
Terrible.
No, great.
No, terrible.
Oh,
Have you seen our team play?
Oh, that.
Dave has been in a bad place. So thanks for
God,
tuning in. We're counting on Dave. I've been at a music festival all
Yeah.
weekend.
Shaking knees. How was that?
It was awesome. We got dumped on yesterday
Oh.
evening, but we're still able
Still
to
here.
catch
Still here, people.
All right.
caught some Billy Idol, some Queens of the Stone Age.
Oh, wow. Very nice.
Portugal, the man.
I was worried that the rain might put out the fire.
No, and then Foo Fighter closed down the evening. So
Nice.
yeah.
Great
like it.
weekend. Yeah.
Saw Weezer on Saturday night. So yeah, lots of good music.
Okay.
Did they play the sweater song?
They did play the sweater song, yes.
What's happening?
If you want to
Destroy
destroy
my
my sweater.
Come on.
All right, sorry. We digress.
But as I am enjoying the Weezer concert, I believe, in fact, the
Oh my
Atlanta United
gosh.
game was going on.
Oh.
And Dave is texting all sorts of aggravating things. And like the previous week, I was in a better place. I was fishing the previous weekend. So
Yes.
I think I'm separating myself from the team.
You've got like
at a time
premonition. You know what's coming. You're like Nostradamus. And so you've avoided it all. You're living your best life.
But
meanwhile, here I am like, living every minute of it.
So you've done a lot of homework coming into this. So I'm excited for this one, though.
It's possible.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say this might be the Cats show because I haven't really caught up that much either. But
and Dave took over the Twitter handle and broke some things down. Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah,
I did have like 10-part tweets.
Cats is ready.
Yeah.
He was ready.
Sorry out there, those of you who had to read it.
Truth is hard to read. And so what else is happening? So we've got the Chicago Fire game, which we previewed in our 100th podcast, which reminds me, thank you to our sponsors and the wine that you brought, Dave. Speaking of wine, before we get to thanking
Okay, so I'm trying to change stuff up, people. So I've got my upside down logo shirt on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're on the YouTube channel, you can zoom in, you can see it's all backwards and upside down. And I brought for the first time a brand new wine from South Africa. It's a Pinotage.
I really like it.
Do y'all know what a Pinotage
No.
is?
I do not.
I don't think I've had
So
it.
Pinotage is its own grape, but it's a hybrid between Pinot Noir and Cinsault. There's two grapes that hybridized at one point in history a long time ago. And in South Africa, they've been growing it for a long, long time. And it's its own thing. It's very unusual.
This is one of my favorite wines you brought.
Me too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I've got even better Pinotages at home.
It's fantastic.
I love Pinotage.
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, tell us what you just told us right before the podcast
started. You had a better bottle, but it's too good for us, huh?
I went to this liquor store. It's on Peachtree, sort of over by Oglethorpe and Brookhaven, whatever. I can't remember what it's called. And it's a large liquor store or whatever. And I was in there just browsing the wine section, as I'm known to do. and I found out that they actually had a selection of South African wines. So it's awesome. So I bought a bunch of Pinotages from different things. And I had a really nice one that I was going to bring here. And then I drank it.
I've seen me do that too. So
sorry, I apologize. This one's also nice.
Yes.
It's not quite as nice as the one I had,
but it's still very, very good.
Okay.
And I've never heard of it. So this is I've learned something new today.
But also, if you want to try great wines, make your way to Dahlonega, Georgia, and visit Wolf Mountain Vineyards. Beautiful vineyard and event space up there in Dahlonega, Georgia. Great time of year to be up there.
Yep.
And if you don't want to make the drive and are interested in tasting some wine or beer, Wild Heaven Brewery has 2 locations, working on a third, but they've got one in Avondale Estates here and also on the West End. So
I went and checked out the new one that they're building in Toco Hills.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted to see if it was all ready. It didn't quite look like it was all ready. I mean, I know a lot of times it doesn't look finished, but it's mostly finished. You can see all the brewery stuff is there or whatever, but I was like, I don't know if they're opening this anytime soon. Anyway,
I think
I'm very excited about it. I literally walked over there to see what was going on. So if you all are out there and aren't as excited about Wild Heaven and Fox Brothers together at Tokyo Hills, you're just nuts.
So excited.
You just lost it. This is one thing we can agree about. Maybe Atlanta United, not so much, but Fox Brothers and Wild Heaven Brewery, come on.
Amen.
All right, so that's our good news, people. The rest of the show is about Atlanta United. We're going to start with our away draw 0-0 in Chicago. Again, I watched that game end to end, but it was a tough slog watching that one. We had some opportunities towards the end, if I recall, that could have taken it home, but didn't get the job done. And then, of course, there was the game on Saturday, which we went down 2-0, and I think we got a goal back.
Yep.
And just couldn't.
Pulled one back, had all the momentum, and then.
Were either of y'all at the game?
No.
Okay.
My kids were at the game. I was watching on TV.
Okay.
My kids were like, we're taking the tickets. So, yeah.
So, Dave, since you're the one who's coming prepared, where do you want to start? Where do you want to end?
I think, there's less to say about the Chicago game. It was pretty dull, as you said. A couple of notes. So Wolf started this game, and then Mascara started against Minnesota. And Wolf was terrible.
Oh, no.
I mean, right in the very beginning of the game, the 4th minute, he does a really nice job to get to the end line. He's wide open. Gigi's running into the 6-yard box. All he has to do is feed him for a goal, and he just mishits it right to the keeper.
And you're like, his final moments this season have been missing in comparison to obviously last season.
In the 12th minute, he wins the tackle high up the field and then instantly gives it away. Like, I mean, I noted also that, like, honestly, his body language seemed like defeated.
Right.
Like something's wrong. Like something's really wrong.
Yeah.
Like, because sometimes you just play poorly or whatever.
Right.
But he just looks like he's in a bad place. He was soft in a couple of the tackles. I think he's a better player than that. But
and we'll get back to body language, but like I said, I only watched some of the highlights of this last game, and obviously losing a game like that, the team's going to be down on themselves. But I'm not sensing, for good reason, good energy from body language of a lot of players right now.
Now, there's something that's been a little bit unlucky offensively. Maybe we'll just briefly comment on the things that could have been. So in the 24th minute, Gigi gets played over the top. He goes to finish. It's saved. Wolf comes right in and finishes the rebound. They call it back for offside. But when you go look at that clip, I mean, God bless MLS. There's got to be a line. I'm so frustrated watching this because you're like, actually, the guy on the far side looks like he kept him on, right? But you don't have the angle to be able to say that or whatever. It looks like he's on.
Yeah.
They called him off. But I don't even have clarity on exactly how they're making that call.
Yeah, I think it's all based on, the interpretation that I've gotten is there's people up that are looking at the camera and they just make a call. There's no lines that are
I don't think there's a computer doing it. I think there's people looking at the camera and they're looking in the booth. You're not in the stadium. This is part of the VAR people.
So no lines even with the VAR folks. I thought they were just not showing it to us.
I think they're like,
I don't think so.
They're like, if it's, it's not reversible, whatever the call on the field is will stand, right? It's just kind of.
But they called that back. They said, she kept the flag down when we scored. She or he, I can't remember which was. But and we scored, and VAR overruled it. Like someone was in the ear of the Lions person, and they quickly put the flag up. So there was an official call that was made.
I just find it to be extremely frustrating that there's not clarity on how, for us who are even doing this podcast, like trying to understand how the technology and the system is working with the referees on the field. MLS is doing a really poor job, obviously, of administrating the way that they're deploying the tech. Maybe now that they're announcing the calls in stadium, that'll help. I don't know. I don't recall that in the game we went to a few weeks ago. Do you remember them announcing anything over the?
Nope, they didn't make it, but I don't think there were any.
There was no big. Okay.
Plays.
Okay.
So at the beginning of the second half, they played the ball out wide to Wolf. And literally, there's nobody around him within 20 yards. He mistrapped it out of bounds. It like went off like under his foot out of bounds. It was like watching Little League soccer.
Yeah.
And then he kind of put his head down, and I'm like, there is something wrong.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
And I know now he's hurt, and people say, "Oh, he was hurt," but I don't think he was hurt for the Chicago game.
Right.
Like he played. He can't anyway.
Well, I mean, it's clear his confidence isn't up, and
his confidence is like.
Yeah, I feel like he's a better player than what we're seeing. That's for sure.
And then in the 62nd minute, there was a cross, and it was bouncing kind of a little bit awkwardly. He's at the top of the 18. He goes to swing a half volley on the side as hard as he can and misses the ball completely.
All right. It happens. It happens. Can we maybe?
I made this comment the other day when I was saying Wolf played badly. He looked like he'd been out late all night. I'm like, when you see that kind of body language and things or whatever, I mean, I don't want to start any rumors or whatever, but like something's wrong.
Yeah. Right? And have they brought him off the bench this year, or have they always been?
Yeah, in the last game, he came off the bench
and
afterwards.
He still played like crap.
I think he was a little better.
Okay. I don't know. No.
I'll have to go to my notes when we get to the second game, but
yeah, the problem is the Mascara hasn't been better starting either. So
no,
they're in a predicament when Silva or Saba aren't available right now.
Right, but I don't. We're gonna get to it, I think, on the tactical board because I think I can explain why it's been so bad.
Ooh.
Well, part of the reason anyway. The positive, right? In the 31st minute, Lennon whips in a beautiful cross. Saba heads it brilliantly to the far post, and God bless their teenage goalkeeper.
Yeah.
What a save.
That was a great save.
I think I saw the replay on that one.
Yeah.
That was
like,
nice.
Really? Like, that's what we need right now?
He's a teenager?
Yeah, he's 19.
Lord B.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
So what else good happened, Dave?
Yeah, going for these are the things where we could have scored. 78th minute, Mascara, great pullback for Almada at the top of the box, and he slams it off the crossbar.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I don't know. I can call this up. Maybe Carmen, you can look for this while we're talking. So in the 82nd minute, if you go to the actual Apple highlights, for those people who are saying that Brad Guzan is not old. In the 82nd minute, there's a shot that slams into a Braum, right? And if it never goes to the keeper, but if you watch Guzan behind, like literally like 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, and then he dies behind it. I'm like, oh no. So maybe you can try to find that. But anyway, yeah. And then
and we still haven't seen Cohen this season.
No, and he just makes highlight save after highlight save for the twos. Like, I don't know if you watched the highlights from this weekend.
He's been playing.
My God, he made a sensational save for the twos this weekend.
Oh, I haven't seen a minute of him. Okay.
Up and got the ball, and I was like, ain't no way Guzan makes that save.
Really?
I mean, Guzan in his prime makes that save.
Right.
But it was sensational. So see if you can find where they slam it into a Braum. And while you're doing that, maybe Nike Dobbs, you and I can talk about. So my first indication that Pineda is flailing. So we've been talking the whole time about where is Dax McCarty? Where is Dax McCarty, right? He decides in this game 0-0 where we're in absolute, if anything, we were going to win it, right? We're doing fine, whatever. He brought in Dax McCarty in this game. When did he come in? It was like somewhere around the 80-something minute.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It seemed like everybody said Dax McCarty. Dax McCarty. He was like, okay. Like, because he obviously doesn't like Dax McCarty. Otherwise, he would have played him in all those key moments when we need to hold the lead, right? And yet he plays him there. Now, to his credit, Dax McCarty makes a couple of beautiful plays, wins the ball upfield. He looked a little rusty on the ball because he hasn't been in the game in forever. But he did win the ball up the field a ways, right? And so that was great. But then, so okay, maybe, he's made a decision. Dax has looked better in training. That's what he always says, right? But then Dax doesn't play at all against Minnesota.
Yeah. And we went to like almost like at least on the, I don't know if you saw 4-4-2. Did we play more Almada up with Yakamakis, or was it always kind of our same?
No, it was the same.
Okay.
I don't think.
I always find it weird when I look at the Google lineups, the way that it laid it out. It was a 4-4-2.
All right. Carmen, do you have it?
Let's see. You said hit Sabram and he like dives late.
Yeah, watch Guzan.
Let's see. Let's see if this is it. I'm not 100% sure.
There's only one in the 82nd minute where it hits them, right? It's got to be. Watch Guzan on this play.
Somebody is tickled right now, like really tickled.
Did you see that? Look at that. Play it again.
I gotta see. How do I get this on?
Play it again. Hit them.
Yeah. Well, that's like an old guy trying to react fast.
Ready? Here comes the shot. Blocked. And there he goes. Yeah. That shot the ball was going outside of our 18 before he dove.
Yeah.
Do you think a young Brad Guzan dives on that play? Nope. I just happen to notice it. I don't want to belabor a point, but for those people who think, how do you know that Guzan might not, maybe should be getting to some of those balls or whatever? How do you know that he's a little old and past it? That's how I know.
Yeah. Oh. Everybody knows he's lost a step. So I think it's time that you at least bring in Cohen to give him some minutes to prove.
So presumably Cohen's going to start tomorrow. The
Really?
U.S. Open Cup is tomorrow night, right? Against Charlotte something or other, whatever. Charlotte, not the real Charlotte.
Yeah,
Charlotte.
What if we lose that game?
Okay, so why we take this moment, we're talking about it. So if you're Pineda, knowing that the U.S. Open Cup is completely a joke this year, that not all the MLS teams are playing, and a bunch of the ones that are playing their MLS Next teams instead of the full MLS teams, what do you do tomorrow? You're the coach. We'll start with you, Mikey Dabbs.
Honestly, because MLS has made the decision that it's not a serious tournament anymore, at least we're going to take a year off, maybe infinitely.
Yeah.
I say play the twos.
Okay.
I don't think he will. I think Pineda might be so desperate for any sort of hardware that he's going to go for it and play the full squad.
Carmen.
Ooh.
I
think especially right now with where things are
going. I mean, I think he will definitely play full squad or like full squad minus a couple people because we need to win. What are we? Winless in 5? Winless, I don't know how many. Winless.
There is that too. Like we do need to make sure we win this game.
We have to. I feel like we have to.
You come out strong and then get up 3-4 and then sub a bunch of younger players.
Yeah, you might be surprised to hear this, but I would say I would play my absolute best lineup.
Really?
Absolutely. To get us back into a little bit of feel of winning and whatever, because we haven't lost it. But honestly, if I'm Pineda, and I'm not saying this is best for the club, I'm saying what's best for Pineda, right?
That's what I'm saying.
I would be like, well, my chance at saving my job, we have to get a trophy.
Yeah,
we have to win the U.S. Open Cup. So honestly, if I were him, I'd probably play our top lineup in every single U.S. Open Cup match and say. And then if people are like, well, you're doing it's a joke or whatever, he's like, it's a trophy. We only get to play for a certain number of trophies. I don't make that decision. I just have to go win every game.
Yep. That's
what I would say.
I mean, at this point, if I'm his advisor as well, I'm saying the same thing too.
He'll get absolutely like I'm his agent, destroyed on Twitter for that.
Coaches have agents. I don't think they do.
I don't know. Whatever.
I know they don't. That's still good advisement right there. Go after the hardware.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Dave.
So I would try to win the cup.
Mm-hmm. I think that's why we will see.
And I said this at the preseason. I said, with because the other trophy that you can go after. So it doesn't look like we're going to contend for the Supporter Shield. There's always the playoffs. You can do well or whatever, but the other one is the Leagues Cup. But the problem is by the time Leagues Cup comes around, we're missing that's the exact same time as we're missing Almada and whatever. So we're not winning the Leagues Cup without Almada. No, I don't think. Because you got to beat all the Mexican teams. It's not even like winning the MLS. Mm-hmm. You got to beat the Mexican teams. So I don't think we're winning the Leagues Cup without Almada. And so, honestly, if I were going to tank a competition, that would be it. Okay. Go get my rest during the Leagues Cup while everybody else is playing the Leagues Cup. I'd kind of play a soft side in the Leagues Cup.
Talk about other tournaments. Did you watch Columbus versus Monterey?
Yes.
Man,
Yes, I did.
Talk about good coaching. They looked so good.
Yes, they beat Monterey in Monterey to get to the finals of the CONCACAF Champions Cup.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there were some moments they were just pinging it around. Like,
yeah, and they went down. So they took a 2-1 lead going to Mexico at home.
Okay.
I think, or was it a tie? I think it was 2-1 lead. You can correct me if I'm wrong out there. And then they went down 1-0 to Monterey in that game.
Yeah.
So I think it was all tied up at that point. And then they scored 3 goals in Monterey.
It ended up being 3-1.
Yeah, that's a heck of a
not a lot of people going to Monterey.
No, that's a good club at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now there was an upset, and the other semifinal was 2 Mexican teams, and there was an upset. So they're actually playing the weaker of
Pachuca,
team.
right?
Yeah, is it Pachuca? Anyway, maybe we could look it up for Carmen.
Pachuca.
So that's a winnable final for them.
Right.
I mean, that would be, was it Seattle won 2 years ago?
Yeah.
So it would be 2 out of 3 if we could somehow do that.
Was it Seattle and LAFC the last 2 years? So MLS clubs are on the.
Did LAFC win it last year? Oh my God.
Really?
I forgot
Oh,
that.
goodness.
So it's been, if they're able to pull it off, it'll be 3 years in a row for MLS clubs.
Wowza.
I mean,
Liga
MX is under pressure from MLS. I mean, if we get that 4th DP and raise some GAM, that monopoly money.
I think long term that we're going to be a better league than Liga MX.
Yeah.
And Liga MX is really smart to play all these in between things because that's their ticket to rising with us.
Yes.
Even though right now it's like they're throwing us a bone because they're a better league and a more expensive league, right? I think long term the writing is on the wall.
Right.
I think.
Follow the money.
That's my opinion.
Oh, wait, let's see. The Colonel says LAFC lost.
Okay.
Yeah. See, I didn't think they won.
And
Seattle won.
Okay.
That's
right.
2 years
That's right.
ago.
And Tyson has said everything else you said is right.
Okay.
He's doing my job.
All
for
right.
me.
Well, go figure. I was wrong.
Okay. I was like, I didn't think they won. Anyway. But yeah, MLS is doing much better. So good for them. And I think that the weird thing about those competitions, right, is the time of year that they play it in. It's never us in our prime versus them in our prime. It's either us at the very beginning of the season while they're in their middle of their season, and then we play, Leagues Cup, which is right in the middle of our season, but it's at the end of their season, and then it's only in the U.S. Right. It's like they haven't quite gotten it on fair, equal ground in any of those competitions yet. But
if Columbus were to go on and beat Pachuca in the final, that gets them into the Club World Cup final, right? Which on the global stage people make fun of, but it's a good thing for MLS teams right now, obviously. What did
you get to play against the Champions League winner?
What did Seattle
going to be?
Who did Seattle end up playing?
Probably Madrid.
Yeah.
Has that happened yet with the Seattle team? Or
they did it next year. They didn't do well. No. I think they lost both games.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Columbus, though, maybe they can represent
Columbus, a good side with a really good coach.
Yeah.
And we're going to get to some stats at the end.
All right.
Anyway, let's go right on to the second game because I think there isn't much more to be said. 0-0 draw was a pretty boring game against Chicago.
I struggled to stay awake through the end.
We called it.
Yeah.
I think all of it.
We called a tie.
Yeah.
I called a win.
He called a win. I said a depressing tie.
Yeah.
And you called a tie.
Because it was closer. At the end, we definitely could have put one in the back of the net. But this team.
I'm back to my formula, which means that. Yeah, and unfortunately, Atlanta is really back to the formula.
Like
and I just felt I felt like we were a Formula Squeak Plus, and we just haven't proven
that. I thought we were gonna be Formula Plus, and I think Carmen's right. We're Formula or Formula Minus at this point. We'll get to that in a second.
Yep.
So you would have said, Formula says on the road that we never win, period. Right. So the best we can do is a tie, even against a crap team on the road like Chicago, and Formula was right.
Yeah.
Right. And then Formula would say at home, Minnesota is a good team, and you would say at best a tie, maybe even a loss.
Yeah.
And Formula's right.
But I can't believe Minnesota. I mean, I know they're in 4th place.
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be, Mikey Duck.
It was not what I predicted in that game either.
So let's just go with my overall. I wrote, if the Cincinnati game was one of the best played tactical games I've seen in MLS almost ever, this was one of the worst.
All right.
Uh-huh.
No lies told.
Yeah, I mean,
all right. So on to the loss on Saturday.
Yeah.
Talk us through your notes.
Okay, so first of all, Abram had one of the worst games, and in particular, first halves I have seen. So twice,
like running into the goalkeeper and things.
Yeah,
like
that was one of them.
Missing the header and then running the
So
goalkeeper.
twice there was a ball up in the air. He misjudged it, tried to snap at the header. Both times it went over his head. The first time he immediately turned around and grabbed the guy. And I think he never looked around. It was a miracle that it happened to be that he wasn't the last man back.
Yeah.
It could have, if Moreno hadn't been there. Oh, no, in this case, it was Cobb. Sorry. If Cobb hadn't been there, then that would have been a sending off.
Yeah.
And I don't think he had any idea that he wasn't. He just turned around and instinctively did it, which, with the guy back turned out to be smart.
Yeah.
He didn't know that. He could easily have been sent off. And then later, he did the same exact thing. Misjudged the ball, snapped it again, turned around, and ran slammed into Guzan.
Wasn't Gregerson available? Why didn't we play him?
Because we're very conservative about bringing people back from injuries.
Yeah.
Always. He did play in this game, finally. Okay. He came off the bench.
Yeah.
But only in the 80th minute or something. Pretty late.
Yeah. It's a game we need him. I think you take that risk.
Yeah. We have to win these games.
Yeah. What was his injury again?
So hamstring, I think.
Hamstring. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not.
That is a tough one.
No. Sorry, meniscus. He had surgery for his meniscus.
Okay.
So I think actually, to be honest, surgery for the meniscus, you can push it right back.
Yeah, hamstring, you don't want to.
There are players I was, I had surgery because my knees are terrible now, and during the surgery, they were saying, the two guys at Emory, Dr. X and Dr. Labib, were saying a lot of times with professional Falcons players, or even Georgia Tech, UGA football players, right? They'll do a meniscus or something like that, small on the knee. They'll do it on a Thursday. They play Saturday or Sunday.
Amazing.
Really?
Yeah. Some of the knee surgery stuff is just so precise.
So,
Okay.
But anyway, in the meantime, he let a ball go out because he thought it was a goal kick. It turned out to be a corner. And then early in the half, there was a ball dropping, from the air. He looked around, was under zero pressure, and then literally he was like a 3-year-old kid in Little League, just punted it up the field. I'm like, what kind of professional doesn't bring that down and find a pass?
Yeah.
He's just I got to get it out of here. I mean, that's not a player who's an international that's looking confident or
kick
whatever.
It, Boomer.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, dear.
There was a rec team I played on, and one of the kids' nickname was Boomer because that's all he did. It's just played in the back, and as soon as it was a kickball.
Okay. Those are the days, though. Come on.
Second, third grade, get him, Boomer.
You kind of like it. Boot it.
So I think I want to come back to some things towards the end of the game, but let's go right to the highlight because this is what I want to show, and then we'll go on the tactical board and we'll show, what I think has been a problem, right? If anybody saw my Twitter thread, it was about the problem that we have in pinching in. So, and the reason why it's killing us. So here we're going to show you a clip from Atlanta versus Minnesota. It's the 58th minute. Minnesota's up 1-0. And I backed it up quite a bit because I want to tell you how long Minnesota has the ball. This is not and they're going to go from their right back all the way to the left forward, all the way back to the right back. So if there's any thought that, well, maybe Wiley gets caught or whatever, it can't be because he has 30 seconds to figure it out. Okay.
You can take the controls.
All right. So let's play the clip, right? So right now, Minnesota has the ball at right back, right? They play into the center. He switches it out to the left, right? For unknown reasons, he decides not to go forward. He plays back. He was wide open because Lennon was pinched in. They play back to their left back. He plays it to the middle, right? Now they play to the right back and freeze, right? Oh, let me go a little bit. All that time. And okay, where is Wiley in this clip?
And so
I don't know how, there he
so
is.
this gets into the thread that Dave tried to explain. Like, look, there's the idea of being compact in soccer, and that is a principle of soccer. I get it. But the principle for the sake of a principle is no good, in my opinion, if it's not helping you at all. And there's zero balance in this youth league idea of getting back and in, which, again, like I said, I was taught that growing up. But in this case, you have to, as a pro player, get out and be putting pressure on him as that ball recycles out. Now, are you telling me that who's tracking back there, that was his responsibility?
Well, you know what you're going to see?
No way.
No, you want to going to see what I think is really crazy, and I'm going to get on the tactical board in a minute to show you exactly what happens. So not only is Wiley here in the middle, right, and he's standing next to a Brahm, right, and they're two guys covering one, while they literally played all the way from their left forward, all the way back to the middle, played it over, and they left this guy wide open. Why would we give somebody a chance to get up the field wide open? And I'm going to talk after this about the stats, but first let's show you. Look who they think is responsible. So not only is Wiley inside, but Wiley's not going to come out here ever. Watch who tracks him.
No, that's not really tracking.
That's like, what just happened?
That's
all right.
That's
Let's
watching.
go back
That's
again.
called ball watching.
All right. But so who, right? So you know who this is?
Is that Saba?
It's Saba. That is what I'm pointing out to you. They not only is he pinched in, but they expect Saba to cover that guy so much to the point where Saba starts this above the half field line, right? And does Wiley come over yet? No. He's waiting for Saba. 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 Saba kind of gets. Yeah. That's our tactic.
Yeah.
That is our tactic, people.
And so, if that's our tactic, then you can say Sabo is being lazy. He wasn't giving 100%. But does that make any damn sense for that to be our tactics?
No. It even looks like Saba's looking for somebody to be like, that's
Yeah.
not me. What are y'all doing back there?
Okay, now, all right. So this is the very end of the play where the winger ends up right at the top of our 18. Okay, so let's say Abram or Wiley or Saba wins the ball, right? So people have been wondering, we've had zero productivity from, or not much productivity from our wingers, Saba, Mascara, right? Wolf.
Yeah.
Right.
And by the way, it's 6 versus 3 here. Like, what could have possibly been the harm of Wiley going out and pressuring that?
Nothing.
And in what world does that not make sense for him to be out on him freaking earlier?
He's heating up. He's on fire.
And here, what I want to focus is on, we've focused on a lot, right, on this defensively and how shambolic it is, and it clearly is. But I want to focus on it offensively, right? Because if we win the ball here, who do we have to play to? So Saba, let's go to the tactical board.
Yeah, and we should easily win this ball with the.
Yeah, we got 3v1.
Yeah.
Still nobody steps up to him. And Abram just continues to back up and back up and back up and back up and never challenge for the ball ever, which is terrible. He just looks like afraid all the time. Yeah. But my point here, and so I'm going to, on the tactical board, I'm going to show you what happened on this play.
Love it.
And where the problem is, right? So we obviously we were a little bit up the field, but I'm going to do it with our favorite team because I'm going to talk about what we could do afterwards. So this is not the team we had, but this is probably what our best team is, right? So okay, so they switched it from their middle to their left forward like this. Okay, and then Lennon was actually pinched in here, right? So first of all, there was a switch for there, and Lennon had no even thought of going to win that ball, right? We looked like this in the back. We had 4, compact players, right? But nobody winning the ball, right? So they played here, and then for some reason he decided not to go up players, and he played it back, right? So they played it back some here, played it back over here, and in this case, Saba was like here, right? This is Silva now, but it doesn't matter, right? So then they played it here. Okay. And now instead of Wiley coming to address it. So first of all, Wiley could have been, and we were arguing about this on Twitter.
He was jogging back and literally like jogging back as that was recycling over.
Yeah.
And so could have seen the guy that was out on the touchline.
I don't need, we were arguing about this on Twitter. And what I didn't mean was I don't want Wiley like this.
Right.
Right. But what I want is like Wiley right here, like, okay, go for it. Right. I dare you with my speed. You try to play this ball and woo, right there, close enough where he can close it down and not close enough where this guy can easily get behind him, somewhere in there. Now, you notice there's a distance, there's a gap here, right? There's a gap between the center back and Wiley, right? But it doesn't matter because there's no forward there, right? And on that play, there was literally no forward. There was a kind of forward here, whatever. Anyway, so instead of that, Wiley stays in here. They play out wide, right? And he dribbles the ball all the way to here. By the time he does that, Wiley is here. This guy actually makes an overlap and ends up here, right? The center back is here, which was a Braum in that case, right? Cobb was back. Lennon was, of course, pinched in.
And two other players are back, too.
Yeah, and we actually had Muyumba and Sleaze were back.
Yeah.
No, they were this way. Sorry, this is the way they were.
It was like 6v3 there.
Okay. And Almada was here. But they expected this. This is Saba, right? Now, it's obviously Silva in this particular case, but it was Saba on that play to do this. Okay? So when we win the ball, right? So obviously the other winger is going to be here. But let's move as they were. They're not going to be, the other team is going to be, somewhere
they're outnumbered.
Here, right? So like this, okay? So when we win the ball here, and actually I think they were it was sort of like here, right? When we win the ball here, right? So much of soccer, the key to playing offensive soccer, right, is when the ball turns over, that first pass, does it lead to somebody in space running with the ball? The space right here is right there. That's exactly where Saba in that case just abandoned, right? He abandoned that space to check all the way back out here. Yeah. What he should be doing is here.
And tire his legs out too in the meantime. Like unnecessary running. Right. Unnecessary running from the guy that you want to save those jets for.
Wiley in this case could be out here. The center back could be out here. We still have cover with here. And we can have, this guy coming over, right, which is Muyumba. We're still fine there, right? Now, if we turn the ball over, he tries to dribble against their center back and Muyumba gets a tackle in. Oh, that's what we need, right? One of the things that we're not getting is we're not getting a huge amount of wing play. And that's because not only is he expecting the winger to be the one covering out wide, so he's expecting this. He's also, Lennon is pinched here. He's expecting this, right? So we end up with Sleaze and Muyumba here, right? And then usually we have two options.
And often Sleaze and Muyumba at this point in the buildup are they're marking no one.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and a lot of times they're ball side, and we'll get to this in a second because that's the other point I want to make. Yeah. But we end up something like this, right? And so the problem is when we win the ball, let's say we win the ball here, where do we have to go to? We only ever have Almada or Gigi. And that's what we're doing is we're playing Gigi and expecting him to hold it up while we all get running up, right? And it's because our outside wingers, which we're playing a front three. But our front three are expected to cover in outside of our outside backs. That is creating a huge problem because we're giving him a wide open player and we're not marking him, which is nuts. And it's creating a huge problem because when the ball turns over, we have nowhere to go with it.
And we have two very athletic fullbacks. I mean, so if they save their legs on that side of the field and then you let Saba and Silva save their legs for that side, that's better balance. And again, it's not like we're saying the fullbacks have to be way out on the touchline. They have to be up closer. And now if the game is compact on that side, yeah, maybe they do need to be up right on top of them. If the rest of the team is shifted over, like on that last one we broke down with Lennon, where it kind of started it off, like there's no harm in that to be right on top and tugging his shirt, really. You got the rest of your team there.
Yeah.
So again, when there's a huge transition that we just saw happen and you just leave acres of space, if that's not a soft goal recipe, I don't know what is.
Yeah, and I'm going to go back for just a second because I want to show you the other problem that I think that is really hurting us. Okay, so let's put our forwards up again where they should be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and let's put Sleaze and Yumba for a minute here, and Omada and Gigi were somewhere here.
Yep.
So they actually broke us down somehow. There was like a give and go to here, whatever. And actually, these guys were even further up. So then our back four was literally like, as we just pointed out, was like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. They were super pinched in. And this guy was wide open. So anyway, so they switch it over here. Okay. So first of all,
Which point in the game is this, by the way?
this is just the play that we just watched. The beginning of it.
All right.
Right. So they switch it over here. So first of all, right, not only does the pinching and kill us because, as you saw, they're expecting the guy to come back. And in the first game against Chicago, it was the same thing. Lennon kept dropping back and he allowed Saba to chase all the way back here. It was crazy. So that is clearly the tactic on both sides. Okay. Anyway, so they allowed this switch over the top, right? 30 yards, right? So, and there was nobody on him, right? So that was an outlet that gave him out. So please, let's just say we'll go with a better tactic. So if Lennon was actually responsible for that player and he was a little bit over there and Wiley was a little bit over there and we looked even somewhat normal. So first of all, you now no longer have this. Because if you try to play that ball, Lennon has a really good chance of intercepting it, right? So that's the first thing, right?
And if not, he's going to recycle it back and there's more pressure to be
right. Placed. Maybe he brings it down under a lot of pressure, but he has to play it back. Fine. Okay. The second thing that we're doing is, which I don't really like. So I don't know what you think, but I'll ask you the question right now. What have you thought of Muyumba over the first third of the season?
Well, like in that Cincinnati game, I thought he was great with Sleaze. I thought there was good balance. Overall, I think Muyamba is, he puts pressure on the other team. I don't have a problem with what he's doing based on what I think he's being told to do.
Yeah, him and Sleaze are playing really well together tactically, and it's giving us a midfield or whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you noticed, Muyumba's not winning the ball. It's all Sleaze.
Really?
Right? Sleaze is basically winning the ball. Now, Muyumba's helping because he's part of that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, and Muyumba looks like, in my opinion, every game he's getting more and more dejected, and he's playing worse and worse.
That's what I was going to get to. I definitely see I feel like he's been great all through the beginning of the season, and particularly the last couple games as the team starts to falter. Like you can see him, he got super frustrated on that one where I guess he made the bad little touchback and they ended up scoring on us in this last game.
Yeah, we're going to play that in a minute because we're going to show you the consequence of it.
Yeah, and you can see how frustrated he is. And I think, again, we talk about body language.
Yep.
He is not showing that body language to a teammate.
We're going to show that season. Right after this because we're going to show you why. Okay? Yeah. So first of all, why is because so right now they're playing this dreaded double pivot and they're really, really disciplined about it, which is, good. But the problem with that is that that's not Muyumba's game. Muyumba has two things that he does well. He runs around a lot, and he's really good on the ball, right? Yeah. He's not really great at reading the game. He's not so good tactically. Yeah. They have put him like in a box.
But he's a full-on athlete. He's physical. Yes.
He can cover a ton of
like room. You said, he's very skillful on the ball, so he gets it and moves it quickly to somebody else.
So I feel like Pineda has not seen his strengths and has put him sort of in his own little prison. Right. So what I've been advocating is Sleaze doesn't need that. He can cover their best option no matter what. Why don't we play with Muyumba and Almada a little bit ahead? Okay, like this. So first of all, where they had the ball. So now Sleaze can go ball side every time. So this guy had the ball sort of more in here. So Sleaze can go ball side, which in this case is right here, right? And he's taking away this pass here. If you notice here now, and let's make Wiley even in better position, where do they have to go with the ball?
Probably to the keeper.
Yes. So I'm even also going to advocate the near side center back, which in this case is Gregerson, but it's been a Braum, should be really up on his guy, and Cobb should be a little bit central and a little bit back. So Cobb is covering this sort of deep ball in behind him. And now, the reason why you play two center backs, I don't know if you know, why do you think you play two center backs? Because most teams are playing only one center forward. So why do we need two against one?
Well,
I mean, everybody playing two center backs, right? Why?
Do tell.
Oh, I feel like it's a trick question.
I know.
It's not a trick question. I think you absolutely need two center backs because you need the cover. You need pressure cover, right? Mm-hmm. But it does you no good unless one of them is actually pressuring and going for the ball. If you have two here and they only have one forward, the guy who's on the ball side should be really aggressive trying to win the ball. Right. And what we have is a Braum doing this,
backing up.
Right. And we kind of look like this. So and
then the young kids, you're putting him in a predicament because you got Abraham just backing up.
Yeah. So I would say, look, get up the field, get challenging or whatever, get a little bit of cover in behind. And now we can win the ball up the field. You've got all action Muyumba, who's going to go put pressure on things. Even Almada can be cheeky and come double team, right? We could sometimes look like this.
Yeah. And then, like you said, if you get Muyumba out of his prison, he can play those little ticky-tack balls off Almada.
Yes,
Almada would love that. Like, of course you want to run everything through Almada, but Muyumba is more than happy. Like, that's his game, to use his athleticism, get the ball, pass the ball, get the ball, pass the ball.
I mean, Doug Roberson sort of tweeted out that, we should be playing in a low block and counterattacking. And he's not wrong, because that's the best we've looked all year. But that's crazy with the team we have, right? The team we have should look awesome pressuring up the field. We have guys in the center midfield who can mark it up. We've got an all-action guy who can pressure the ball in Muyumba. Right. And we have a front three. If you can turn it over and get him one-on-one, they can take advantage of that all the time. Almada can beat his guy. Silva can beat his guy. Saba can beat his guy. Gigi can get behind. Like, that's awesome. So we need to be a pressure team in the middle here. And the way you're a pressure team is you get it sorted out in the back. Right. And you, instead of playing this side by side Muyumba and Sleaze, you play forward back and free. I'm going to wear a t-shirt, free Muyumba.
Yeah. Now, I wouldn't say that Muyumba was free during the Cincinnati game, but we did see a nice balance between Sleaze and Muyumba.
Sleaze was doing more of that.
Sleaze was more reading it, figuring out how to step up and put the pressure. Muyumba was just filling in the space, but they were keeping it tight.
In that case, Sleaze had a lot more freedom, like I want to have. Yeah. But then Muyumba was doing this crazy stuff. He was like doing that, to be out for an outlet. But I'm like, that's also not right. Like, Muyumba should be like, your job is like, go find ball, right? Mm-hmm. Go find ball, go pressure ball, right? So because what I would like for Muyumba to do is to go pressure the ball, right, and try to win it. Right. And Sleaze to be taking away their best option, which is, this guy coming across, he takes away their best option. Right. And then if they try to, play it or whatever, let's say they play it back here, Muyumba or whatever, your job is to recover on the weak side to these guys. Right. Yeah. And even if somehow they beat that, sort of great pressure and the guy does amazing thing and he flips the ball through to here one-on-one or whatever. Right. So once you do that, this guy has to run, right? You've got Cobb matchup. He doesn't have this option over here. And Sleaze can recover in, right? Sleaze will do that. That's why he's so good.
Right.
Right. If you don't have a guy like Sleaze, then they beat that with one. He never gets back. And now you got to run against your backs. Right. But honestly, that's what you do. You take that chance and pressure. And even if you have that, let's say even Sleaze, trips over himself or whatever, and they run at you, whatever here, so you still got 4 back to try to cover it.
You want to talk about that goal that we gave away with?
Yeah. So now let's go talk about the goal, because you can see the frustration in Muyumba. So the goal is, if you put it on, I'll find it.
You want it on the YouTube or
no? Just go on the full clip. Why not?
Why not?
We're a full.
So not on the YouTube.
Was that the first or second game?
59.
I mean, first or second goal.
It was the second goal.
Okay.
It was right after this, so you can just go forward.
Wait, let me make sure. Wait, I'm not sharing yet. Can you pause that real quick?
Yeah. So, any other observations on the build up to this kind of team collapse here on this goal? Or are you about to get into it?
I want to go right to this because I think we've set it up beautifully. Yeah. What happens when you don't have to free Muyumba? Because so what happens is Wiley gets on the ball here. Okay. And so first of all, how do you prevent this? Right? One of the things that you prevent this, and we're going to talk about this afterwards, is when you are a team that's a dominant team, particularly at home, a lot of possession, you just don't build out of the back that often because, as we just pointed out on the tactical board, most of the time you're recycling it in the middle. You keep them in their own half. Wiley's going to make this mistake, right? But you're giving Wiley the number of times that they have to try to build out of the back is too many. For the amount of possession that we have, as I will show you statistically in a minute, we give up the other team getting up the field way, way too much, which means that Wiley has to have too many opportunities to play out of the back. He's young. He makes a mistake, right? So Wiley gets the ball. They're playing out of the back, and he's going to try in a second to feed Muyumba here. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'll play it and I'll pause it. So he's about to play Muyumba there. Okay.
Muyumba's pointing, don't play it to me. Play to the guy to my left.
He's saying play it. I think he's saying turn around and play it back to Guzan, because I don't think he wants him to play this one.
I think he's asking him to play it square or play it back to Guzan.
I think he wants to turn around.
It's definitely not body language. It says play it to me.
He's pointing here, and Wiley's going to play whatever. So it's a bad decision by Wiley.
And Wiley's body, his posture on the ball right there is not strong enough. I don't know.
Well, he's like, where do I have to go?
Yeah.
And as you can see here,
it's not on his toes.
Well, this is posting up, if you will, right? So he could probably lay this in softly to there, but he doesn't. Anyway, so he tries to play this bad ball. But what I want you to point out is when you put a guy like Muyumba in handcuffs the whole game, this is the kind of effort and attitude you get, because he is closest to the ball. Even as the ball comes close, he's still the closest to the ball. And watch how easily he gets beaten.
Yeah, just toe pokes.
Right? So
man, Brad Guzan gets beaten.
So let's go back again. We'll play it again. Right? He's free closest to the ball and he gets beaten again. Right?
Yeah. And by no means is that a good ball to Muyumba, especially after saying don't play to him.
Really not.
But he's doesn't put his leg.
That's what happens when you get a guy who's frustrated. He's like, play it there, whatever, right? That's an all-action guy who's been made tactical. Right? So when Muyumba came to the club, people were like, this is the greatest player we've ever seen, because he was just flying all over the place. I would be curious if you're out there, maybe the people who are on the Colonel or other people who are on our discussion. Does anybody think that Muyumba is that guy anymore? And to be honest with you, I said last year, I think you're going to find this out.
No, I think in the right system, he could be fantastic.
I think he could be good, but is he that guy now?
No, but no. Are any of the players that we talked about that? Like, is Wiley the guy? Like, I mean, Wiley's was a player that was progressing, and now is I feel like is plateaued as well. Who else? Lennon has had a good. Lennon might be the one we've seen the better season from. I don't know. I mean, Almada is definitely not we're not seeing a better version of Almada this season. I think he's been fantastic.
He's great.
But definitely not maximized.
Yeah, I think we're going backwards, and you're seeing frustrated players. And I would have said one of the frustrations is Muyumba's an all-action player, and when you play him side to side in a double pivot, he has to be tactical. If you want to do that, you've got the player.
Yeah.
Dax McCarty is that player. That's exactly the player that you want to be. So if you feel like Sleaze really can't do it, he needs that double pivot. I don't think he does. I think he can do it by himself. But let's say you feel like he does it, then Dax McCarty should be starting, not Muyumba. Or as we've pointed out before, you say, all right, well, you need both. You need the action, whatever. So then you play Dax McCarty double pivot. You pull
winger
Silva out. Almada plays the left, right? And now you play Dax McCarty and Silva playing behind Muyumba.
Okay.
Those are all options.
Yeah.
Right? All of which are better than what we're doing because, yeah, we've gotten it much better defensively in the middle. We are good, but unfortunately, in doing that, we've handcuffed Muyumba, and he's getting frustrated, and you can tell, and that's when it shows. So people are like, when coaches are like, oh, why do we make some mistakes? That's the kind of thing that causes a guy to get a mistake. As soon as you're not, he's a guy who loves to run around and knock people over and slide in and challenge, and he's not being able, free Muyumba.
Free Muyumba.
I love it. I need a t-shirt.
So,
which frees Sleaze.
Which frees Sleaze to do exactly what he does. Sometimes Sleaze is frustrated because Muyumba doesn't read it that well. And Sleaze is like, let me come over there and do it for you. And then he can find Muyumba, and Muyumba can be that transition guy to play simple to Almada. Yeah. All your job is to get it to Almada. Get it to Almada, right? And now the other thing that's happening is people are like, oh, I'm so frustrated that Almada is coming so far deep. Yeah, of course, right? Because Almada has to come that deep. We've shown it. When you take your outside wingers and you bring them behind your fullbacks to make plays, right? Your only option is Almada, right? And if Almada's going to get the ball on that one that we just showed on the tactical board, he has to come that deep.
Right.
He has to. There is no other option. Whereas what should be happening is we should be winning the ball up the field. And even if we don't, we should have the outlet to Silva and Saba, which means that Almada could be the second guy, right? If that's the truth, he can be much further up the field in those pockets of space.
So bring up a good thing that happened in the game, because again, I only watched the highlights. Lennon had a beautiful early cross to Gigi in this game where he heads it. And he heads it down because it's a screaming curler.
Except for it was Almada. It was Mascara who drops the ball to
Almada.
It was. Okay.
Yeah, it was a beautiful ball. It was an awkward height. And, unlike Saba, who struggled with one, Wolf, we told you, just swung and missed. Gigi's like, yeah, that's a really tough ball to hit. He gets down low and tries the diving header, makes a great play, and it's just a great save.
Just a great save. I mean, he does exactly what you have to do in a very difficult header like that. Like, all you can do is try to bounce it into the turf and hope that it makes a difficult save for the keeper, but the keeper was up for it.
Okay. And before I go now to the other goal or whatever, I think now might be the time, since we just talked about how it is. One of the things that I got frustrated about, I was like, why in the world, how do we give up those 2 goals? We keep giving it. And, Pineda keeps pointing out, and he said something that I watched the whole press conference. And he said something that was true, which is, he's like, it's not like we're getting broken down by great attacks. And he's right. And then he goes on to say the conclusion is that it's just individual mistakes. And that's where I think he's wrong, right? Because it's individual mistakes, but it's individual mistakes that we're not covering up for because the tactics are bad, right? And it's also individual mistakes because the other aspect of it is, like, for example, Wiley there, right? I am not arguing, if you're out there saying, don't you think that was an individual mistake that Wiley made? He gave that ball away. Yes, absolutely. And there's one case where I said,
but it's an individual mistake by Muyumba for not getting he could have put his leg in front of that and gotten fouled even.
So how do you avoid that? So what Pineda would tell you is you need the perfect concentration. You never need to make that mistake. What I would tell you is you need tactics to cover it. Right? We should have stepped up and covered it even after that ball was given up. But most importantly, if you have in this game, do you want to know what our possession was?
Do tell. But yeah, to your point, even on that play, like our center back should have stepped. The one center back should have stepped much earlier once they saw Moyamba.
I actually looked at it a lot of times to see how bad it was at Braum, and there was another runner, and I don't think it was horrible for a Braum. So I think the major flaw in that was the giveaway. But I honestly, that all being said, if that's Stian, do I think he makes that play? Probably, because he would have gambled more and made the play. But in any case, we had 68% possession.
Really?
Okay, 68, and gave up 2 goals. How does that happen? Okay, and this is what I want to point out. So I was like, the problem I said on that play, you're like, how do you avoid that, Dave? Like, how do you avoid that tactically? And my answer is the only way you avoid that tactically is by not having Wiley have to do that 8-10 times a game. He only has to do that once a game, and then his chances of making that mistake are much lower. Yeah. So you have to avoid the teams when you have 68% possession. They should never be in our end, right? And how do you know they're not in our end, right? Because what we know is that they had 32% possession. How do you know whether they're in their end? I'm like, okay, well, how do you know when they're in? You look at the proxies for it. There are advanced analytics, but I don't have access to that. The proxies are for that is corners and shots.
Yeah.
Okay. So for 68% possession, how many shots did we give up, and how many corners did we give up?
I think that they had I want to say like a 7-to-1 shot ratio, something like that.
We
as in Minnesota had 7-to-1 over us.
No.
Really?
No, the shots were 20-12. Okay, so we had 20 shots.
And the reason I'm saying it is because I think someone told me in the first half it was 7-to-1.
Okay.
And so that's kind of carrying over for the full 20 to what, 12?
20-12. We had 20 shots and they had 12. Okay. So they still, despite 32%, they got 12 shots and they had 9 corners, right? 9 corners with 32% possession. Okay. So I'm like, that means they were up the field a lot for 32% possession, right? So then I was like, okay, is that for real? Or is that like just, the fluke and whatever? So I said, all right, it's time to do the deep dive, right? Let's start with the greatest possession team that I can think of, right? That always possesses the ball, Man City.
Yep.
Okay. So I said, all right, if you're Man City, how much possession do you have? How many corners do you give up per game in their last 10, the exact same number we have? And how many shots do they give up per game? Okay. So Man City averages 66 possession. 66%
possession,
which is very similar to what we had in this game.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just told you we gave up 12 shots and 9 corners. Do you know how many shots that they averaged giving up?
No.
7.
Okay.
Okay. It's not 12. This is a very good team, obviously. Yeah. How many corners did they give up? So like how many times did they get up the field and get corners?
3 or 4.
3.
Okay.
Okay. So that's way, way better. And then you're like, okay, I can see you out there on the podcast rolling your eyes. I'm like, that's Man City. That's unreasonable. I would actually potentially argue that our squad could be the Man City of MLS. We're not as good as Man City or anything like that, but we could be that good with Domin's squad. But let's say, all right. So I said,
but it's also MLS, right? So this is, the stats, right, should hold up for the best potential team, which we think at 99.
So I said, all right, let's look at our last 10 games. Maybe this was a fluke, right? So in their last 10 games, our average possession was 55. Okay. So it's not the 60, whatever I just said we were, 60.
68 or 69.
Yeah.
You're going to tell me there was more shots on goal and less corner kicks?
So we give up an average of, with 55%, we give up 15 shots per game. 15.
Oh.
That's a lot. And you know how many corners we give up?
8.
We give up 5.3.
5.3.
Okay. All right. So now that's not as good as Man City, right? But you're like, okay. So then I said, all right, who is the team who we want to be the most like in the MLS, who I think our squad is the most like? Columbus. Okay. So Columbus, let's go here. So Columbus has an average of, you want to guess possession wise?
64.
Yeah.
I guess.
I'll take lower, 60.
It's exactly 60. Brilliant guess. Yeah. Okay, so they have 60 compared to us 55. So it's ballpark. They're a little better. Okay. How many shots against did they give up? We give up 14.9, 15 basically. How many do they give up?
8.
Carmen?
I'll go 9.
They give up 9.7. Okay.
Right.
So it is not like 3 or something. It's not like Man City good.
Yeah.
But it's still a good over 5 shots less than us. Okay. Now, how many corners do they give up? We give up 5.3.
Yeah. Let's go with 3 then.
Yeah.
I was going to go 3 too.
They gave up 3.2. Okay. So I said, all right. So they have a little more possession than us. What about Cincinnati? That's the other team that we might say we consider as good as us. What's Cincinnati's possession?
Let's go with 58.
Ooh, that's a good one. I'll go lower, 57.
Their possession is only 52.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's lower than ours. So you say, okay, their possession is lower. They should be giving up more shots. We gave up 15 shots. How many do they give up?
11.
10.
It's 11.9, 12.
Okay.
So we give up 15, they give up 12, right? Even though they have a lot less possession. So it's not huge numbers, but we're giving up considerably more shots than Columbus and considerably more shots than Cincinnati, despite having better possession than Cincinnati, almost as good as Columbus. How many corners are they giving up?
Which team are we on? Let's go 3 again.
4.
Yeah, they actually give up 5.7. It's almost exactly as us.
Okay.
So they're giving up the same amount of corners. So if you look at where we are, right, what you would say is that the teams that have similar possession than us are giving up definitely far fewer shots. And overall, probably a little fewer corners. I mean, Man City's really aspirational, but I'm really talking about Cincinnati and Columbus. And what that tells me...
They probably also defend quarters better than us, too.
We're going to get to that in a second. But what that tells me is that our system is allowing them, even despite our really high possession, and in a lot of our games, we have an average of 55, but in many of our games, Orlando 59, Colorado 59, Red Bull 55, Charlotte 62. Oh, sorry, I'm reading the wrong one. That's not us.
Oh, no.
Sorry.
Scratch all that.
Minnesota 69, Cincinnati 59, Chicago 64, Philly 63. Right? I mean, we've had a number of games where we were really high, right? And we're still giving up to 2 goals to most of those, right? And so what I'm saying is they're getting up too easily. And I think we just showed you why on the clip. It's mostly this, not only this outside leaving the guy open, but it's also a lack of us winning the ball up high. If we got it shut down there, if we freed Muyumba, we would not be giving. We'd probably give up more like Columbus, which is giving up 5 fewer shots than us. You give up 5 fewer shots, that fluky goal, that second goal goes away. And you end up with more shots offensively.
And Abram doesn't have to back up anymore.
And Abram doesn't have to back up. And Muyumba's not frustrated, because that's the other thing that doesn't show up. You say, well, that's not his fault tactically. And you're like, and it ends up sort of, you don't say, okay, Muyumba should never get frustrated just because whatever. Yeah. But if you're not playing well, you tend to not do well.
Yeah.
And then you get, beat on an easy ball, square ball to you, and the guy just runs right by. Muyumba's the biggest freaking guy on the field in terms of width.
Right.
Right? There's no way that guy should have gotten around and beat him to that ball.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
All right.
Now.
More stats?
No. You want to talk about
what's happening?
Corners? So let's go to the apple, and we'll go to the other goal that we gave up, and I'll set the scene as we're pulling it up. Right? So in the 53rd minute, we gave up the first goal of the game. There was a throw in down the line. Abram is marking the guy. Wiley is actually marking the guy in front of him. They throw it down the line. Wiley tries to recover. They both go for the ball, and Wiley flicks it backwards over Abram's head, right onto the guy he just left. It was like the Keystone Cops.
Yeah.
However, and we can go back and look at that if we want, maybe we'll go back and just for 2 seconds and
there's
look at
the
that.
clicker, Dave.
Yeah,
You got
because
it.
I was going to say, you would think normally if the tactics are so bad, that should should lead to a goal, right? And the answer is it doesn't lead to a goal because Cobb does an amazing job. What's going on? Where's the goal?
You're the guru on the time here.
Where's the throw?
52nd minute.
This is the corner where we just get the goal, right?
I think maybe you got your timing mixed up, Dave.
Before this, it must have been further back, actually, even because the reason why they got down to our end was because we had to throw it in, and Benita was complaining about it. He was saying, "Yeah, I think it's over here." Anyway, it doesn't matter. So Cobb comes across, and even after that Keystone Cops thing, he makes the play, right? And they get a shot off, but it's not a terrible shot, right? And Guzan makes the save for the corner. Okay, now, we get the corner, right? So here's our corner, right, Mikey Dobbs. What do we not like about the corner kick?
I see at least 5 people that are not putting elbow grease on other players. So there's a lot of people that are just playing zone, which leaves a ton of space for Minnesota to just run into the box with them having clear vision, and then somebody having to make an athletic play to step up at the last second to put pressure on the player versus having pressure. Like only 2 players right now are putting any sort of bumping and grinding going on there.
Yeah. So can you see who the players who are bumping and grinding
are? One of them is our little guy named Saba.
Yep.
And then it looks like, I can't tell. Is that Mascara? Who's like?
No, it's Muyumba.
Is it Muyumba? Okay, Muyumba.
Okay, so now some people are going to criticize, right? So Muyumba's marking their tallest player, who's the center back who actually scores. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. So when I first saw this, I was like, oh, he probably got a free run, and it was the stupid zonal marking. He's actually the guy who scores is one of the only guys who's being man marked.
Right.
So I was like, oh, that can't be the problem, right? And it is true. So Muyumba at the beginning of this play, he kind of gets beat, which is what can happen on a 1v1, why you need a zone, right? But he recovers.
Yeah.
He gets back. He does a pretty weak job of jumping for the ball.
Very weak job.
Does he jump at all? I mean,
he hardly jumps at all. And I think maybe that's his free Muyumba play. But what I want you to notice, okay, so you're like, if you're Pineda or if whoever on the Atlanta United staff is running this tactics, you're like,
he's also a foot or 6 inches shorter than this guy.
You're like, how could you criticize me? Because we had that guy actually marked up. Okay, so here's my problem. So, the other side of a zonal marking is the reason why you have those zonal guys there is because when the ball comes into their zone, they're supposed to be able to, win the ball, right? The center back for Minnesota who scores this goal, he's going to score right about right here, right? This is actually exactly where.
Do you know how many? I just want to say something like this. I'm having like
cold sweats,
PTSD from my Ralph Lundy days.
Uh-oh.
There is a fundamental tactical problem with the position, even of all 3 of the players at the top of the 6.
Yeah.
Okay. And that is, what they're doing? They're staring right at the goddamn ball.
Yep.
The first thing you do as a defender, you shift your hips a little bit.
Yep.
And that way, there's 2 reasons. You can see the ball that's getting kicked from the corner, and you can see what's going on a little bit behind you, like maybe number 33, who does maybe get some separation from his guy. And then if I'm Noah Cobb, I'm like, oh, I can come over and help get over there and give him a bump.
Yeah.
But there's no hips turned. Now I got to let's see if the play goes here. This is a still shot. Let's
what I want to point out about this is that he's going to score right here where Cobb is standing, maybe like a foot to his right. And you can't see this, but Wiley is standing right here. So that ball is going to come all the way across. It's going to land right in the middle of this zone between Cobb and Wiley. You would think, Carmen, the whole point of the zone is that those guys should actually go off the ball and win it. Yep. I want you to not watch Muyumba. I want you to watch Cobb and Wiley and watch them go after the ball from this vaunted zone.
Well, I know Wiley doesn't. I'm curious what Cobb does. because they say no hips turned. And the hips turn's important when the ball actually is played. You have no chance. And now his back's to it, right? So Cobb's got no chance. And that kind of went faster. I don't know what happened.
For a second.
It froze.
What happened? I was like, we missed it.
So I don't know.
There we go.
Yeah. He's just his back's to the ball the whole time. If he had his hips turned.
Something the internet's like jiggering or something.
Yeah.
But
the Apple TV is not
it's not the best.
Not playing well with us.
Okay, but my point is, right? So on that corner, and I'm gonna let it play, so maybe we won't get the jiggery thing again, right? So on that corner, those guys are standing right next to where the ball is called. Neither of them moves a step.
No.
How is that?
Yeah.
It's like the most passive zone you could possibly have, right? So if you're gonna play a zone, right? You need players who are actually going to go after the ball, win the ball. You know who was really good at this? Who used to play the front of the zone for Atlanta United?
Oh, can't remember.
Joseph Martinez.
Yeah.
Because Joseph Martinez goes really after the ball. He's a perfect guy for zone, right? Because anything in that front part, he would go after a win. You know who's not good at zone? Wiley and Wiley.
But I would have, Yakimakis was in there at the front post doing that. So he's
Yakimakis, you'd be like, he's a guy.
So I assume he's marking at 67 there as his kind of
mark. He's zone, so he's anything that comes in there.
Yeah,
he is zone,
right? But watch these guys, right? They just never.
It's almost as if they think zone is like, if it comes onto my head, that is my zone.
Yeah, you're got to go attack the ball there.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
And look, understanding exactly where they started to play. I think actually Wiley, to his defense, he makes one step. He doesn't go to the ball. That would be asking too much.
I think Cobb takes like a half step backwards, kind of stumbling
back.
Cobb
looks like maybe he's a little off balance, so he has to balance himself, but he never moves.
Yeah.
Hips got to be open there too.
But my point is, so either get to what I would say is get the guys marking up so that they're actually engaged in the play. Don't let anybody have a free run, right? And let the guys who are going to be zone and open, let them be the guys who are good at going after the ball. Gichi's a great player to have in the zone. I like that.
Yeah.
Maybe Muyumba, instead of marking, would be a good guy to zone. Oof. They just never move.
Yeah, that's ugly.
I mean, he heads the ball a step and a half outside the 6-yard box. It's very close to where those guys started. And you might say, oh, could they get there? Whatever, but at least try.
Right.
Mm-hmm. They never moved. Yep. So what the zone is saying is our job is to be here. And as Carmen says, I think you put it brilliantly. If the ball falls on my head, I'll head it out.
That's what it seemed like they were doing. Yeah.
Yes.
Boo, boo.
Yes.
Dave, where are you taking us on this journey?
That is most of what we have, right? So we obviously...
I can't believe we had a better pinching example in this last game, though. Like that one you showed.
It's pretty
brutal, man.
It's pretty brutal.
And I started to go back, Dave, to try to... I was going to do a montage of all of our over pinching in. And I just... like most things, time becomes a...
It's so easy. You can find it in every game. Not only they pinched in, but they'll play to the open guy, and Wiley or Lennon will stay there and watch, and they're almost like, come on, you're supposed to do it, not me. Come on. And you feel bad for them. That's not their fault. That's not their fault. Clearly that's been coached. That's instructed, right? They've literally told him, you don't go out there. You call Saba back. You call Silva back. You call Wolf back.
Which doesn't make it the player's decision on judging what the space should be.
No.
Once you are compact.
Way to give the players the confidence to go make a play.
Once you're coming from somewhat of a compact position, right? Which if you're scrambling back, right? Like getting back in center kind of makes sense if you don't know what anything's happening, just to give yourself like the last minute chance to read things. Yeah. But in the buildups that you showed, like there's all day to assess where your other players are and say, I can move out a little further. I can be in a responsible place, not to get beaten behind, but also make sure I've got a chance to have some elbow grease on them, maybe win the ball, just hawk it a little bit.
Yep.
We don't do that.
You know what you call this? Oh, I talked about this with the women's national team. This is over tactics. Right?
Okay.
If you literally told the Atlanta United team to go out and play, they win that game.
Oof.
If you literally don't coach them at all.
Yeah.
And just say, okay, just generally try to make sure you find a mark and go play and have fun. Right? I bet they win that game.
Yeah. Stink soccer.
And I'm not saying that I'm not saying you should do that. You whatever. But the problem, what I'm saying is that the tactics has not suited our best players. It's put too many players in handcuffs. We're not on the front foot. We're trying so hard to be this tactic thing that we're not on the front foot winning the ball.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I do think that you want to have rotations. You don't want to have both of your center midfielders going forward or whatever. The other guy who's been put in a box in handcuffs is Wiley.
Yeah.
Right? Wiley, what is Wiley's best quality?
Yeah, he can
He's speedy.
beat people.
Get up there.
He's actually got really good skill when he cuts in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He can get in that space and finish now and again.
And now you'd say, oh, yeah, but you were talking about he had airplanes and he didn't do it. I've never, ever said that those guys shouldn't be going forward. I just said they shouldn't be going automatically forward both at the same time.
There is no Wiley airplane at all.
There's no way.
Zero
the airplane's
year.
been grounded.
God.
Now he did go forward, and I know people are out there probably shouting. He did go forward a couple of times in this game, but like you've taken away his best quality, and then you've handcuffed him to go make a play there.
To not even use his. I mean, I love him being. Like, I'd rather him actually be out closer to him and get beat one-on-one. He's one of our best damn athletes on the field.
He's going to chase the guy down.
He's going to chase him down. He'd be like a Miles Robinson. He gets beat. He can actually get back and recover.
Mm-hmm.
We saw this in Cincinnati, right? They got easily beat by a terrible ball. There was no pressure in the middle. We played over the top to Mascara, right? Yeah. And Miles Robinson just turned and ran him down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, that's a tactic that's designed to be aggressive, right? And win the ball. And you occasionally get a moment where whatever, and you got to go run him down. He did. Yeah. But when you do that, the guys like to play. They're enjoying it. They're on the front foot. They're recycling the ball up the field. They have options when you win, right? When we look our best, there's open flowing guys. And Pineda will say, XG, right? We hit the crossbar. We did this or whatever. Yeah, we could have scored 2 goals.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't look like we're enjoying soccer at all. These guys are like amazing players that could be free flowing or whatever. And like, we just don't look like we're enjoying it.
And I don't see those goals coming because of that.
Yeah.
There's a little bit there's the energy that is missing that makes those go in or not. And this team, I don't know.
So the fix, in my opinion,
April, May is not going to be the fix. And June is definitely not going to be the fix.
My fix is to get the outside backs, not like all the way out on them, but stop them pinching in where they can go match up. They can go win the balls. We don't give them the easy outlet. As soon as you do that, now the pressure works in the middle. I would free Muyumba by letting Sleaze cover the most dangerous option and having him go pressure. Suddenly we're winning the ball up the field. Almada's double teaming. We're getting it, turning over. Boom, goal, 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 goal.
He's heating up.
Love it.
He's on fire.
So I also think it's a good moment to recalibrate where we all thought Atlanta United was going to finish at the end of the season. Because I think we're all off now.
I do too. I can't remember what I said now.
I think you and Dave said like 5th or 6th.
Yeah, you were higher.
I was 4th, I think.
You were 4th?
Yeah. And we know that's not going to happen.
Well, the one thing I will say, still early.
Okay, I like it.
It's still very early.
We're what, a third of the way through the season?
Yeah.
Glass half full.
Yeah. But what world would lead you to believe that anything's going to change? Again, with Almada gone a huge chunk.
But I'm actually
There's
less
another-
worried about Almada. I'm more worried about
Sleaze.
When we lose Sleaze, you say bye-bye to our midfield.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Gone.
Right.
Now we're really going to give up the 2 goals for real instead of the fluke 2 goals.
Yeah.
And we definitely do not have the coaching to cover up any of these people leaving.
No.
Like not a one of them, quite frankly. So,
right. Like if Dax McCarty was sometimes coming in, he was playing with confidence. He would fit right in, slip right in there, no problem. I would have said, look, Sleaze can cover it the whole time. As soon as Sleaze goes out, now Muyumba has to play more tactically alongside Dax. I don't think Dax is young enough to play it by himself anymore. Now we should have the double pivot, right? And that's fine.
So when is this Open Cup game?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Where is it being played?
Kennesaw.
Okay. Well,
do we
got
symbolically go out again? What was our prediction? Let's predict
that,
and then we'll go back to our season predictions.
Okay.
No. Sorry. Say, what are we predicting now?
First, the U.S. Open Cup.
Okay.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Oh my gosh. I keep saying we're gonna win, but
we have no idea. This is an impossible prediction because we have no idea.
No idea
who
he's playing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we have no idea. I'm going to say that. Oh yeah, I think you're right. I think we were all right. I think we're going to play our strong team.
Okay.
Because Pineda's realized this is his only lifeline in terms of hardware. I think the team is probably aggravated enough from 2 disappointing MLS losses.
Okay.
That them as just professional players have a lot of pride on the line right now, and that we get a pretty big win, assuming we start our starters. If that's the only thing I'm going on with my prediction, big win. And if we go with our 2s, then yeah, whatever. This prediction doesn't even matter anyway.
Carmen,
I am gonna go win and something like a 3-1 because I feel like if we get up, we'll start pulling
gonna
people.
Play a good team or
I think he will play not his best team. He's not going to start his best team. If it's anywhere close, you're going to see people coming off the bench, like beginning a second half, and then I think we score a goal or 2.
I think Pineda's flailing for the first time, really flailing. And I think that as flailing, you get, this crazy thing. And I think he's stubborn a little bit and he's flailing a little bit. I predict that his original plan was to play a change side. And he says, I'm not going to change by the way I am, whoever. I think he plays a completely changed side, meaning that no Gigi, no Almada, certainly not those 2 players. You might see a couple of the starters in with there, but I think it's going to be a completely changed side.
But that's not what you said earlier. You said
I said I should. He should play them all, but I don't think he will.
Got it. All right.
Right. If I were doing it, I'd play the full side and go steamroll him. Right. Get up in 7-0 at half and say, give us like our aura back a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. And then try to make as many shows as possible. Right.
And I guess, I don't know. Do you think he's played his hand a little bit that he won't start everybody since you said, what's his name? The keeper. He's pulling Elise Guzan, and maybe that's
I think that's been the plan the whole time, and I think he'll stick to that.
Okay. So what's your prediction, though?
I predict that we struggle mightily. Maybe we win, but not convincingly.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely think if we don't come out to steamroll them, we're going to struggle.
Yeah.
Because, Charlotte Independence is, big
everything to play for.
Everything to play
right,
for.
That's true.
We throw out a mixed bag that hasn't played well with any sort of chemistry.
Yeah.
We're going to find ourselves up against a USL team that's hungry.
Yeah.
And has everything to go for, and us being confused about who we are.
Yeah.
I almost feel like you just predicted. I felt like that was right. What you just said is going to happen. It just felt right, unfortunately.
All right.
Darn it.
And then after that, what's our next MLS matchup?
We play on the weekend.
What we got?
We are away, I believe.
So what's our prediction for that?
Can't remember who we're playing. Carmen, please save us.
Sorry.
Save me.
I'm like, I'm hitting Atlanta United. Why don't we have our schedule up? Okay.
I have no glasses, so I can't read anything.
All right.
DC United on the road.
And DC United
DC's been playing better.
Have they? I was about to say they were.
No, DC's ahead of us.
No.
Yes, they are. People.
Shut up.
Look at the table.
Where are we?
Oh,
yeah, they're ninth. We're 10th.
Okay.
They've played an extra game, but
we
have a game in hand. But they're ahead of us. Benteke, the header. All they do, they have one way of tacking. But here,
so we're away against DC. So what are your predictions there?
You know what their one way of attacking is?
What's that?
they play down the lines, and they serve it into Benteke's head.
Well,
You know where we give up a lot of space?
down the
Down
line.
the lines.
Yeah.
So if there's ever a game where the formula
Mm-hmm.
absolutely, there is no way we win that game.
Yeah. And we definitely would need Gregerson in there to help defend those headers.
And I think he will be.
Okay.
Okay, that's good.
I think we'll have our full team. We should roll them off the face of the earth.
Okay, all right.
But I'm gonna go with.
I'm gonna go with loss for sure.
Oh, I was gonna give us a little guy. I thought we might get a tie. They're not good.
Okay, I'm gonna go win, guys. I'm gonna go win.
Okay,
I'm gonna
alright.
go win.
I think
2-1.
We're gonna have a scrambled egg here. I think
2-1.
loss. Draw,
Formula says
win.
no. We're on the road. You know when the last time we won on the road, Carmen?
It's been a minute, but
It's been an hour. By that analogy, or maybe even a day, or
Yeah.
a week,
You
or
make
a
a
year.
point. You make a
I
point.
think Pineda might also, for the first time in his career, be on the cusp of losing the locker room a little bit.
He is, and you know what happens when he loses the locker room?
Oh, hell breaks his doll.
Well, he flails and he gets stubborn. Right. This is what led to Arroz con pollo.
Yeah.
Mm.
Right. Because what he did was he benched Martinez. He's like, nobody's bigger than the team, which is normally true. But if you lose the locker room, so what's going to happen is if he's really flailing and he's really lost the locker room, you'll see some good player who will not start because somebody's going to get frustrated in training
Right.
and be like, F the tactics or say something,
Right.
a little sarcastic or a little whatever, and boom, benched.
Yeah. And I can see that coming out of the Charlotte Independence game, depending on how things go.
That is very true.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But the good players won't be playing enough to get benched. I don't think he's going to play that.
Yeah,
I would. But normally I wouldn't.
I told you what if I was his
So,
advisor.
you know,
I tried to.
Normally I would be having the team rolling and being like first or second place. And then on this, I would just say, U.S. Open Cup, who cares? That's beneath us.
Mhm.
But that is not where he is. We are struggling mightily.
Mhm.
And once you do that, then the U.S. Open Cup has got to be a priority. If you fired Pineda tomorrow and put me in, I'd play every player I have.
Yeah.
Right. Gigi
Yeah.
would be in, Almada would be in, Steen would be in, you name it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Hell, they're all going to be out of the lineup in June.
I know they're not going to be here for us anyway.
That's so true.
Win now.
And you because the other thing is that the road to winning the U.S. Open Cup is easy by definition. There's nobody playing in the U.S. Open Cup, so there is a really easy road to win.
Yeah,
regardless of who gets through. Right.
So that's why he got to go steamroll.
I think
like
so.
Who's advising him otherwise? Does he have a mom to call? Mom, what should I do?
Call Lifeline.
She's like, play everybody. You need to win.
Call the
Pineda.
ATL on fire.
I mean, Mom would say that. I
Yeah.
don't know much, but you got to win, son.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yep.
All
You
right.
got to save your job. Okay, but we have to
Mother's Day is
revisit.
coming up too, isn't it?
Oh,
We
that's
got to
right.
revisit
Yes.
you started it. You got to revisit the season.
Oh, okay.
Where do you
Yeah.
think we're finishing?
I think we finished 7th.
Okay, you went from like 4th to 7th.
Yeah,
Carmen?
that's how far I've fallen.
Oh gosh, and we're missing a bunch of people. No better than 8th. I might go 8-9.
You guys are really down. I'm watching the team and I think it's so down. But the thing about it is, so even with the shambolic tactics, we keep getting a lot of shots. We have a lot of expected goals, right? Like, surely we can't be that bad. So I would have kept us sort of where we are. I would have, maybe I would downgrade us to 6-7 instead of 5-6. But I'm basically saying the same. I never had us in the top 4 anyway. But I don't think that I still don't think that we're a team that's going to fight for the last playoff spot.
Did you originally have us at 5 or 6? You remember?
I think so. Oh, do I? I probably waffled and said
you
I
were
think it was
waffling
closer
between
to 5. I think
Yeah.
we were. Yeah, I think we said 5-6, but we were closer to.
you guys
5.
are in the 5-6 range.
Yeah.
And I was like,
above that.
I was like,
went with the over.
I was like, we should be 3, but I
That's
think
right,
I think we'll be
you
4.
were more like 3-4. Yeah.
I said 4.
Yeah.
But yeah, 5 wouldn't have been surprising, I think is also what I said. So
Uh-huh.
it's really disappointing that I'm backing off two levels now. I mean, man.
Yeah, I wouldn't back off that much.
I'm backing
Maybe
off
just
a
a
lot.
spot.
Yeah.
Am I? Oh my gosh, am I the pessimistic one? Like the
Yeah.
negative Nelly here?
Yeah.
This is happening.
You
Okay.
can't be
Okay.
that bad a coach. Like, we have so much talent.
Well, can
Even
you?
when people go now, of course, we don't know. We don't know whether Amada's playing in both the Copa.
We got to know soon, though, right? When is? I mean,
Argentina might know.
True.
In the Copa.
I've got Scaloni's number here. Hold on.
You do? All right, give him a call.
I'll find
out.
But yeah, I just feel like they're gonna miss those games. And you not only the games they missed, and you have all the few games afterwards where they're trying to find their footing, getting back as a team,
Yeah.
and we're not winning the games we have to win
Right.
now to
And
end.
and I think along that entire course, you're going to see Almada drifting more towards Europe in his head after, especially if he has a good Copa America. And I think there is a good chance that the locker room is just going to be in shambles by midsummer.
The one thing I also said when we talked about the teams, right? One of the things, the teams I said that should make a move, and this is my pitch for coaching, right? So I said Toronto hired the Canadian national team coach, right? And he was amazing with the women's Canadian team first.
Mhm.
He was amazing with the men's national team. Then he moved to Toronto. And I said, he's got those Italians who are still really good. They're poised to make a move. Carmen, can you show us where Toronto is in the table?
Let's see. Drum roll, please. Where are we at?
Yeah.
Go up.
Oh, they're
Go
up.
Number
Toronto,
three.
it was last place.
What's it?
They're in third. Coaching people. You know, people always want examples. How does a coach make a difference? Right? That's basically the same team. If anything, they had to clear out some players because they were still having some cap issues or whatever. They added some talent, whatever, but coaching. Right? So that's the difference. So, you know, I'm not following my own advice because, you know, if you say coaching is so bad, which I feel like it is. And to be honest, I hate to say it, but I've never, even though I constantly criticize Pineda, I don't think he's awful. I just think he's like mediocre, like really mediocre, right? I don't think he's awful.
Well, he hasn't, like to your point, learned to not over tactically.
He doesn't understand the talents of his players. And so the tactics, it's fancy tactics. It's very much, you know, it would work if he had Guardiola's Man City side, maybe, you know, because it's whatever, but he doesn't, right? So you're not Guardiola. People forget is not played Guardiola ball until he got the players he wanted to play Guardiola ball, right? You've got to go to the strengths of your team.
Wouldn't tell his fullbacks to pinch in that much.
Well, Guardiola does crazy stuff. He often has only like two guys back. And, you know, we scream and holler about this. Like, how could you only have two guys back? But they have it so marked up in the midfield that they often only have two guys back. But first of all, the two guys they back are aggressive. Even with all of that, they're aggressive. They play, they close it down. They don't give anybody open.
1v1 responsibility.
1v1.
You messed up, Dave.
Yes.
Don't mess up for this team, Dave.
Yes,
that's his system, though.
And they hardly ever give up that easy ball to the guy because the guy's under so much pressure that nobody has a chance to play that beautiful ball in behind them, right? Because they're under so much pressure.
Yeah, and we don't have that type of talent to do that. But
anyway. And we also give people all day.
Yeah.
So when we pressure them, they can get out wide, and then they give all day to look up. You know, Yedlin, when he crossed it for that goal the other day, he had he could have had T. And then, you know, talked to Pineda for a while and then made the cross.
And that example we talked about earlier. Oh my gosh, it was 2 cups of tea in that one.
Oh, I'm gonna start to get a headache.
And that you are not
thinking about it.
That pessimistic like Carmen and I.
Who's coming with me? No one's coming down with me though. I like it. Okay.
I just think the talent that we have is so much better than other people.
True.
Like you can't finish last, you know. Racing the car races against the 1980s, you go when you got a Ferrari. It doesn't matter who's driving it.
I'm really I'm in a bad place too.
You are
with doing a podcast about Atlanta United when look, at what other point are we going to have potentially a Schleich, Almada, and Gigi?
He's wasting a golden generation.
We are in a.
We have an amazing.
I don't
team.
I don't blame average Joe for not seeing what those 3 players are. Like, I was telling somebody earlier, like, look, Miami, of course you're going to take Messi, but Tata is kind of look. I mean, if he's looking over, I mean, he'd be salivating at those three players.
Tata could beat his Miami team with our team.
I think so. That's what I think you're absolutely right.
Because that team's very good, especially at Messi on his day. There's like no answer for that. But
but Schleich could put some pressure on him.
And their back line is not good.
Yeah.
And Busquets, as good as he is as a player, is getting old. Yeah. He doesn't cover the way he does anymore. Right. Okay. And Suarez is in the right spot or whatever when they're on the front foot. But if you're not on the front foot, if you get Miami on the back foot where they're defending all the time, they look really ordinary.
That's when you get like at Messi at the beginning of the year, they look extremely ordinary. Where like Messi's like, why did I come to the MLS? Like you can see that in his posture. You're like, are we this bad at defending? Like it was atrocious for those first few games.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, Miami's looking scary right now, and looks like they're going to bring on another Argentinian next year.
One thing I also want to say is that there's a bunch of people who are like turning on Pineda now because they say, okay, we finally gave him the squad. And I do agree that this is the best squad that he's had, period. But where I'm going to disagree with people a little bit, I think he had a lot of talent, before that. The Marcelino Moretos, the Araujos, they have some flaws, but they're talented players. They just needed to be unlocked.
Ironically, we were saying like, you needed to put Araujo on the left and put him in his box there. You know what I mean? Like, hey, dude, all I want you to do is run, especially when we had
Gigi. Not a guy crowding his space.
Yeah, like run down and cross it. You had a clean whip of a left foot.
And I think that – so do I think that team was as good as now? No. We had flaws, particularly in the center in the park.
Yeah.
Real flaws. But, do I think a better coach could have had that team finishing in the top 4?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think we've been saying it for longer than a lot of people because we're watching it and we're like,
I mean, you were saying it after the end of his first kind of half season.
Well, he walked in that first half season. We were on such a roll, and that's a perfect example. So people are like, oh, Rob Valentin did so well with that squad, right? Yeah. And he's actually assistant coach still, right? So people are like, bring him back, fire Pineda and bring back Rob Valentin. I will tell you, folks, I am not convinced that Rob Valentin is a great coach. All he did when he got control of that, so Frank de Boer, no, it wasn't Frank de Boer, it was Heinze. Heinze had them whatever in their heads. He just said, go out and play, kind of thing. And he's like the interim coach, and he didn't try to do too much. And they went on a roll. They won like 5 out of 6 games.
Got us to the playoffs.
Absolutely. And I would have said, if Pineda right now would say, I've got it all wrong, and just say, okay, go out and play. We're going to start over. Yeah. They would go on a run and they'd win 5 or 6 games in a row. Yeah. The talent is there. Yeah. Now, I think that we, ultimately, is that good enough to get by Columbus, Cincinnati, Miami? No, right? You're going to need this talented team and you're going to need awesome tactics. Yeah. So I do think you've got to coach the team or whatever. I just think we're at 6s and 7s. He's fixed some things. He stopped the airplanes. He got us locked up in the midfield. But despite that, he's giving up stupid, crazy stuff out loud.
He didn't get it locked in the midfield. Schleich did.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Which is Bocanegra,
and he's going to disappear.
Did Bocanegra sign Schleich?
Yeah, it turned out, people were talking about it, no, they were talking about Gigi.
Okay.
It was in reference to Gigi, right? So they're like, why did Gigi come to MLS? And Gigi had a bunch of offers at Celtic. He had scored 19 goals or something the previous year. He wanted to get paid at Celtic, and they were like, no, we don't have that money. So he was on the market or whatever. A bunch of clubs came to him, and he said the reason why he came to Atlanta, he admitted in an interview this week, is because Bocanegra was the only one who came to see him personally.
Really?
So it was Bocanegra people, all those people out there, Bocanegra out, right? And that it was all Lagerwey, whatever. Gigi, who's clearly a good signing.
I don't understand the credit to Lagerwey for signing players. Like, yeah, he signs the paper, but he's not out there scouting or like.
I think his job is to organize it and make sure that our scouting team is better, that we're going about it better. But I don't think he's not assessing the talent and saying like this. These are our top 3 on the board.
Like maybe he's a part of those conversations, right? Like here are top 3 on the board. Here's some film. Like here's what we thought about his personality that matches the culture of the club.
And if you look at Lagerwey, the one thing that he, I think, should get a huge amount of credit, and what he's done brilliantly, and we haven't really talked about, he got rid of the bad contracts.
Yeah.
Right. And some of the silly decisions we made with Tam and Gam or whatever.
Yeah.
And got us on a much
our
more.
Books are better.
Our books are way better.
Yeah. You can feel that for sure. But I also, let's talk about one last thing with the coaching here. Like, I think it's pretty clear if we, again, kind of land, doesn't matter where we are in our predictions, but we're probably not going to be in the top 4. It's possible. Even if we do take top 4, at this point, it seems very unfeasible that we'll make like a real run in the playoffs.
If you're not top 4, you're not winning MLS Cup.
So the odds are
not with the teams ahead of us. You'd have to get through Miami, Cincinnati, Columbus, all on the road.
So we'd have to have like this miracle turnaround where we make the top 4 and we do well in the playoffs for Pineda really to have a shake, really, in my mind, for coaching into 2025.
Yeah.
Knowing that the odds are against him, Garth better be looking for a potential backfill right now, don't you think? We don't want to be hunting for our next coach, when it's totally obvious in September. Like, why shouldn't we that board should already be created, right? Of like who our options are.
Yeah, and I would say
even and then like worst case scenario, like we could lose the locker room. It could get really bad. There could be some nasty headlines. Like you might need to pull the trigger even earlier. This is not the type of club that does that, which I think he obviously gets the run through an end of a miserable season with one of the best squads we've ever had.
Yep. And then Almada's gone for sure.
Almada's gone. And then
Gigi says he's here for the long term. But anyway, that's a lot. We're getting
so anyway, like who should be on our board, Dave?
I love the power play. Right. So people are talking about find the best coach, get the Mourinho, get the whatever. I would go first after Wilfred Nancy and be like, we're going to not only weaken our enemy, Columbus, but we're going to strengthen ourselves and we're going to double your salary. Right. Let's go.
And we didn't even do the power play when we went to Seattle. We got the assistant coach.
Right. Yeah. Right. I agree with that.
Why not go after the head?
Why not go after the power play and then say, you take
you take Pineda,
unpolished assistant coach to move.
One of the things, the big clubs in these different countries, the Bayern Munichs of the world, the Barcelonas, Real Madrids, they consistently do this. They just get the best coach from their own league who fights against them. And that does two things, right? It kills the other team while it makes them perfect, right?
And who's the Cincinnati coach? Noonan's the other option, right?
Yeah,
power play that.
He would be my second choice.
Yeah.
I love it.
All
right,
let's go after the best, and those guys would know MLS and they would know whatever. It would be a power move.
Yep.
Now, do I think they would take it? Not sure.
I think they probably would.
But a large price. We're such a bigger fan base, such a bigger club. They have a chance to go with so much more talent.
Well, that's why, like last year, I mean, it was who isn't going to want to coach Almada? And then we had Gigi on the roster already at that point. Like, you knew good things were going to happen this season on the roster. We could have power played it last season.
Or even Toronto. Go after the Canadian guy.
Yeah.
Might be like, you're in a small market. We know.
Yeah, there's your number 3.
Now he's gone a year. Let's say he finished his top 3 with that Toronto team.
Yeah. All right, people.
Less power play, baby.
I think we have talked about it all.
I think we have.
Is it time for some Denny Rojas?
Like nothing but you say it. I do it, coach. Football is life.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a good week. It's Monday. We'll see what happens in the Open Cup.
Take care, everybody.
Take care. Ciao.